Hello YouTube, Nick here again. Today we're going to go through bearings, okay? In my previous video you might have seen some of the issues I had with my RC bearings, mostly on my XRT, my XMAXX, and last week we had some issues with the bearings on my Max. So today I'm going to go through what I've been doing, and I'm going to try it this weekend when I go out bashing and see if they last a little longer. Alright, so what I'm going to show you is I think my fix to the lack of grease or lube in the Traxxas bearings. What I'll do is this is a punch here, and what I do is I just lay the bearing on top of it. Another thing I've been using is, this is what I've got, just Kendall high temp wheel bearing grease. There's a bunch of different greases out there. You can get your local parts store that you can do this application with. First thing I do is I get like an X-Acto knife, okay, here, and what I do is I end up popping the dust covers off the front and the back of the bearing. You see here. So now you can see the inside. First thing you want to do is clean these out. Brake cleaner, probably compressed air, some kind of cleaning solvents to make sure that when you turn these, you don't feel any grit or any resistance in there whatsoever. These have already been previously cleaned. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of the dust shields back in here. You'll hear it snap in. So one side has the shield, the other side you can see the bearings in there. Now I'll get something like, this is just a brass punch. This works the same with the small bearings too, like on your 10th scale and so on. These are bearings, inside bearing and outside bearing, or inside and outside for the XMAXX and the XRT, the later versions. I'll stick it on something here like this, where I can get it to move back and forth. And you can use a flat blade screwdriver. There's just a small screwdriver here. I've got a little, this is just a nail tool for I think it's for your cuticles. So it's got a nice flat spot on there, you can see there. So all I'm going to do is scrape some grease out. So I've got grease on there. I'm going to pack it down inside where the bearings are. Grab a little more. And as I do that, I'm also rotating it on this punch. You can do the same thing in your hand if you want. This is just a little less messier version of it. And I'm just packing it down with the flat portion of this tool. Scrape it down, pack it in there. And as I'm doing this, I'm also turning it at the same time, making sure I take any excess off and pack it down into that bearing area. Scrape off any excess there. This doesn't take long, maybe 30 seconds or so, maybe a minute. Once it's all packed in there, I'll grab a paper towel, wipe off the excess, or I can take this cleaned dust shield here, and I will snap it back in. You'll hear it snap in. If you use your fingernails, you'll hear it and feel it. I'll just take that off of there. Wipe off any excess grease. So I got my shop rag. Wipe off the excess. Then I'll take the paper towel, and these are kind of easy because they're bigger bearings, and just get the grease out of the inside of it. So there you go. Both dust shields back on. Now it won't turn as easy because it's packed with grease. I'll give it a few spins. It might throw a little bit of excess out of there, which is okay. I'll just go ahead and wipe that off. So there's an outer XMAXX XRT hub carrier bearing that is repacked with high temp wheel bearing grease. Set this one to the side. Now the smaller bearings, I got other tools I will use for those. Your smaller bearings, like for your tent scale, I just get a smaller punch like this. There's a tent scale wheel bearing, slash, stampede, whatnot. Just so it slides down, I'll do the same thing. I'll put that in my vise, and I'll just turn it once I pop the cap off while I pack it with grease. There's another punch. This is a Max bearing. Same thing. Just put it on something where it will hold it, where I can spin it and pack that grease down. Now moving to the inner bearing for the XMAXX XRT, I just grabbed something that had a little bit larger diameter. So there's your inner bearing. It's not tall enough. Bring this up a little bit. This is just some old handle I had for a file, which works fine because it'll slide down on there. So again, I'll show you how I get that seal off of there. X-Acto knife or any kind of little hobby knife that's got a nice end, sharp edge in it. I'll get it in between the seal, work it in there nice and easy. Might take you a couple times, so that'll pop it out. I'll get that out of the way and expose the bearings inside. So these bearings have previously been cleaned. So again, just double check. You feel no resistance or grit in there, set it on your tool, and then get your grease. And again, I'm going to apply it, force it down into where the ball bearings are. Turn it, apply some more. And make sure that you can't see any of the bearings. So turn this all the way around. I'll use the flat edge of the tool, whether it's a screwdriver or whatnot, and force that down in there. You could use your finger as well if you want to press that in. Other old school method with actual vehicle wheel bearings would be to put grease in the palm of your hand here, take that bearing, turn it, and pack that grease in there as you go. A little more messy. This way I like it. I can turn it, get that packed in there. Take the excess off of there. Make sure, spin it a few times while you push down on the grease. That'll get that packed into those ball bearings in there. Let's turn it and scrape off some of the excess there. Then I'll grab my cleaned off seal that's been cleaned previously. The side where you can see the metal, that's going to be on the inside. The side where you don't see it, where it's clean, that's going to be the outside. Just drop it on in there. Use your fingernails, or you can use a small screwdriver, and you'll feel it snap in. Get it off. Wipe any excess grease off of there. Again, grab my shop rag here. And clean the middle out, because that's where your axle shafts will end up going through, so you don't want that to get all full of grease and attract more dirt and dust. Spin it a few times on there. Again, there's going to be a little more resistance now because there's a thicker grease in there. Alright, that feels good. So there's my inner hub carrier bearing, and we've already done the outer. Both of those are freshly packed with grease. So what I'm going to end up doing, that's for one wheel. I'm going to do 3 more, and then I'm going to get to installing them on the XRT. Earlier this week, I redid the inners and outers on my regular Max version 2, and I also did the inners and outers on my Haas, which has the extreme heavy duty kit on it, so the bearings on that are larger than the stock ones. So those are both redone. Did the ones on my Max a couple weeks ago after a bash session. All 4 wheels over there, inner and outer, and you can, like I said, you can pick the grease up at any parts store. Just grab some high temp wheel bearing grease, because these bearings do spin quite fast, so you definitely want something that's high temp. Okay, now we got the bearings all done and packed. I'm going to get the XRT, and we'll get these inside and outside bearings replaced. Swivel stand for these big ones. Do the rear first. Well, this has been recently cleaned and new bearings put in it, but I want to get some freshly packed new bearings in there. The rear is pretty simple. Only a couple screws to take off to get the subcarrier out of there. Slide that out with the axle. A couple screws to take out. Push your pins. Slide those out. And then it comes out in one piece. Actually, I didn't put in... These are new ones, but they've only got maybe 15 minutes on it, on these bearings, because the last bash session when I had this out, I took a jump and that's when the motor locked up. So I have a motor actually on its way today, getting delivered. So pop this clip off of here, and then all you gotta do, small screwdriver, and pry that plastic hex up out of the way, and then just slide the axle out. And there's your inner bearing and your outer bearing. You can see the dirt buildup on there. This was a pack of bearings I got off of Amazon. I got a pack of 10 bearings for maybe, I think it was $12. I'm just using, the bearings are out. I'm going to take a rag, clean all that gunk out of there, dirt. Depending on how dirty they are, I would suggest probably washing these out in some water. Use a Use a plastic bristle brush. Get any crud out of there. Alright, so now I got my freshly packed bearings. Snap the inner in there. And I got the outer, I'm sorry, and the inner. It's fully seated in there. Wipe this axle off too, get any dirt off of here, especially where it rides on the bearing. There we go. That's all clean now. Alright, slide that in. Make sure you get seated on the inner bearing. There we go. And take your plastic hex. Get that slid over the top. And then take your clip and slide that into the groove. There we go. Careful with those. Make sure if you've not done it before, maybe put a rag around it, because if that thing goes flying, you're going to have to be searching for it in your garage or wherever you're at. Okay, so that rear is done. Slide it back in the axle there. Axle back in the diff. Get that put on. My pin slid back through. That they are flush on this opposite side. Then go ahead, take your screws, stick those back in. Remember, you're going into plastic, so don't over tighten these, strip them. Don't want to strip them. Alright, so there's our old bearings. It doesn't feel too bad, but it's definitely got some gunk in there. Alright, let's get the other side. Alright, so we got the back done. Now we're going to go ahead and do the front. Only a couple extra things on here you got to take off, but still not a big deal, super easy. You got your tie rod end, get that off, and you got the same two pins, upper and lower. Get these pins out, lower, upper pin, clean those off, and you should be able to slide the whole assembly out of there with your steering knuckle and your hub carrier. I usually leave those all hooked up, no sense in taking them apart. Get your clip out, slide your plastic hex off of there, also push it this way as well too. There we go. Then the bearing will slide off of the axle nicely. Should be able to slide everything out. So we'll take the top and bottom caps off of here. Bottom pin, pull those out. And make sure we'll clean those up before we put it back together. And then the carrier will slide off of the steering knuckle. So you can take your axle out the opposite way. It's free, we just gotta, there we go, finesse it a little bit, got it snapped off of there. Again, let's clean our grease off, any dirt, dust, contaminants on the inner axle. There we go. Pop this one out, so there's your inner and outer. Again, I'm going to take a rag, clean the inside of this out where the bearings ride. packed in dirt. Make sure I get that out. All right, so inner bearing goes on there. Actually, what I'm going to do, let's see, get this back on as well. Slide those back in. And then put our caps back on there. Cap, screw. Don't recommend using power tools on plastic unless you know what you're doing and know when to let off. I usually just slightly snug it and then I'll come back by hand to make sure they're tight. Alright, so got the inner bearing in there. So now we're going to put the axle back through. Make sure that bearing is centered. The axle shaft is locked into it. Slide my outer bearing. Make sure that's in all the way. Grab our hex. Clean off the dirt on that. There we go. And we got our clip. There we go. Inner bearing, outer bearing. So now we can slide that back inside. That goes back in there. Now we've got our lower pin. And our upper pin. That's slid in. And those go flush inside there. Alright. And we got our tie rod end. Bolt in there. And there we go. That's in there. Got our two smaller ones in for here. Check all these here, make sure they're good to go. Just a little bit snug. Tie rod, and that's good. All right, move to the other side now. Same thing. I think our motor's here. That lady just showed up. Alright, let's tap it some more. It's coming. See, it's working its way off of there. There we go. Alright. Alright, let me go check the mail. I'll be right back. I think I got my XRT motor in. Found brand new on eBay. It was $140 brand new, supposedly. Buy it now. There we go. There we go. Yep, that's brand new, all right. Oh, good. Guess I'll be getting this put back together today then. All right, so anyway, there's the motor. Alright. Inner bearing. I guess I should make sure that goes on the axle nice and smooth. Outer bearing. Okay, all the bearings are put back in, front and rear. I'll get my wheels back on, and then I will work on that motor. I may do another video on the motor, I may not. I'm going to slide it into this fan assembly, get the gears on it. Alright, so got the bearings all repacked and installed in the XRT. I'm going to take some time off here and get the motor set to go. I may or may not do another video on that. Let me know in the comments below what you found, if you've had the same issues with these bearings. Any alternatives you've tried. I'm going to hopefully get out this weekend to get a good bash session in and see how that high temp wheel bearing grease holds up to that fine dirt and dust out there. Alright, talk to you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe.